Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand. Today, my guest is former FCW heavyweight champion, tag team champion, NXT tag team champion, co host of Up, Up, Down, Down, Mr. Tyler Breeze. Breeze, how's it going, sir?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Good. Can't complain tonight. The weather's actually pretty nice, so we'll go with that.
There you go. There you go.
So, what made you want to get into professional wrestling? I'm sure you've been asked a million times, and I apologize.
No, no, no. These are the questions, man. Um, it was just one of those things that I just saw on TV one day, and just as cliche as it sounds, I was like, that's really cool. I think I want to do that. And then everything kind of went towards that. It was, everything from then on was I was going to be a wrestler. I was going to be a wrestler, and you get the usual, the same thing that probably everybody's gotten. Oh yeah, you'll grow out of it, or you'll find your real career or whatever. But yeah, I just kept going that same direction because I just wanted to do it. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Now, at what point did you decide that this was something you were going to pursue? Was it accessible for like school wise back then?
No, not really. Like it's interesting, especially like because when I decided I wanted to do this, I was like 6 or 7. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It was like, yep, that's cool. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be on TV one day. Having no clue where to start. You know what I mean? So even where I was, there wasn't really a lot of independent wrestling at the time. Just kind of like hidden away in the corner of Canada. So I knew it. I didn't even know it existed really. I knew that WWE had a developmental system,
Hmm.
but that was about as far as I knew. So I knew that OVW existed, and that was kind of my goal to get trained at OVW because they were associated with WWE. But before that, I didn't really know about independent wrestling. I didn't really know about like going to get trained. I didn't really know about anything. So I just kind of learned as I went. In terms of like what's the next step, because I was clueless, man. I had no clue where to start.
Where did you start training at?
I was with Lance Storm at the Storm Wrestling Academy, and it was actually I was looking at OVW and thinking that was my only option. I was like, well, this is how you get to WWE. You have to go to their developmental system, OVW, and so I was planning on doing it. And obviously, being from Canada, I couldn't work or do anything there.
Hmm.
So I was like, I just got to save up a bunch of money. I got to go down. I got to get trained, and then try to get to WWE. And then just random like Google search or whatever, one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I went, wait, there's a school right next to me, and it's run by Lance Storm. I know Lance Storm. I watch him all the time, and I can work there and I can do everything. Yep, that's where I'm going. And I applied right away, and I think he had one spot left. Either that or he was just working me. You better pay me, man. You better get in. And I went and trained with him.
Now, how long did you train with Lance before you started working matches? And did you stay up in Canada, or when did you start branching out?
His training course was 3 months, and at the end of that 3 months, like you'd already technically been working matches in the
Hmm.
class, but not shows or anything. And I believe as soon as I was done the course, I already had some bookings lined up, so I went and started working them, and basically kind of hit the ground running. And I was working in Lethbridge at the time, and then I was working in Calgary, and then Edmonton, and that was kind of my primary. Like
Hmm.
Alberta was usually my 2 or 3 shows a month, and I did a couple like little tours here and there, like over to Winnipeg and Ontario.
Hmm.
I went to LA, or I went to California, San Bernardino for like a month. So branching out here and there, but again, being kind of hidden in Canada, you only have so much. So I was just trying to make the best of what I could. Luckily for me, the shows were actually very good in Calgary and
Hmm.
Edmonton. We were drawing good crowds, and we were doing some cool stuff, and so it was actually really fun, and gave me good experience to get ready to move on.
Now, how long did you work the Indies before you set your sight on trying out for WWE?
I finished up. So I did Lance's January 2007 course. I finished that in March of 2007, and then I got hired by WWE in June or July of 2010. So 3 years roughly, and yeah, 3 years on the Indies. That's it.
So OVW was shut down at that time. How did your
hmm
developmental come about?
So it was just kind of one of those things where I'd been working the indies, I've been doing a couple things here and there, and I started to realize that they're all very similar. And I went,
Hmm.
okay, it's just kind of the same thing. Like not a bad thing, but it's just more of a if I want to go to WWE, then I should probably hear why they won't hire me right now. And so a tryout popped up, and I went, you know what? I should just go to this tryout, and I'll pay my way to go down to a tryout, and I'll be in front of them, and they can literally go, hey, we didn't hire you, but this is why. And that was the main thing for me. I did not expect to get hired in this tryout. I just expected to kind of get feedback and like, okay, hey,
Hmm.
do this, do this, do this, and then that was my next goal. You know what I meant? And so I went down. There was like 60 people. I had a blast. I met some people. I kind of got a good idea. I got some feedback, and then from there, I believe it was another 6 months before I had another tryout that popped up, and I remember going like, "All right, I'm gonna show them that I've done what I've worked on," and I went down, and that was the one that I got hired at, and so it was a good thing that I did. But I was just kind of being persistent, and
Hmm.
hey man, give me an objective here. Like, what do I need to work on? And then coming back and actually working on that objective.
How was your first when you got to FCW? How was your first impression of FCW?
Pretty intimidating.
Hmm.
Because at the time, wrestling goes in cycles a little bit, and they had just finished hiring a bunch of big, gigantic guys, and I went, "Oh my god! Like these guys are huge. These guys are monsters. Like they tower over me, and they're huge. Like I'm a young kid who, realistically, I wasn't, much bigger or smaller than I am now. I was just kind of, in that range, and these guys are just huge, and I'm going, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get killed here." And luckily, I had to actually ask Lance, and I went, man, I don't know what to do. Like, I ain't gonna last here. And he just went, don't worry, they hired you for a reason. Like, just gut it out, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And within 6 months, a lot of those guys were gone,
Hmm.
and they started bringing in the Seth Rollins, the John Moxleys, the Claudios, like all those guys. And I went, oh, okay, so like talent wins out in the end. When it comes down to certain things, it's great to be gigantic and tall and big and jacked, but if you're not catching on or you're not really a wrestling fan, it's eventually going to weed itself out.
Hmm. See, I grew up around OVW, so I got to see developmental from there, and then I moved to Tampa for a little bit in the summer of 2010. So I got to go to some FCW shows, and
Sure.
I had some friends that got signed, so I lived with them, so I got to see it a little bit. And I remember FCW would be like, well, we're going to hire football players, we're going to hire models, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
hire everybody we could, and see what we can make work with this. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember they hired when they hired Baron Corbin, they hired another guy named Tack and all these other like they
Oh
hired
yeah.
five football players at a
Yep.
time, and it was
Well,
sink or
that was the
swim.
that was the funny part, and he's one of my good friends now, Corbin. But when he first came in, we called him football Tom, because it was they hired a bunch of football guys, and they came in and like Corbs is Corbs, and now that you know him, like I love him, but at first I was like, man, this guy sucks. Like he likes football, I get it, but like he didn't really like wrestling, and he was just kind of getting
Hmm.
everything that he wanted, whatever. And I was like, it was just kind of one of those things where I think he either rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, or he just he is how he is, and we didn't know how he was yet. And so yeah, first off he was football Tom, and then luckily, well, not so luckily, he put a lot of hard work in, and he actually likes wrestling, and
Hmm.
turned into a hell of a wrestler, man. So he was one of the exceptions to however many they hire. You don't really find a Corbin here and there.
Hmm.
So he's again, I can't say it's luck. He's worked his ass off, and he's a hell of a talent. So
How was your time in FCW? Because developmental then versus now, it just seems like it's two different worlds.
oh my god, very very different. Um, yeah, and also too, man, like just the maturity level, like of being a kid. I mean, I was like 23, 24 at the time. So all of a sudden, I've been in Canada, small town Canada, my whole life, and all of a sudden now I'm in Tampa, and I'm going out and partying, and being a young man, enjoying my life. You know what I mean? So uh, getting one, being a part of WWE, all of a sudden it's an eye opener of like, okay, this is my job now. Like I gotta take this seriously. So as much as you're working out before, you're working out even more now. As much as you're working on your characters and stuff like that, it's even more now. And it's you got to go and train every day. And it was just like you said, it was very different. It was very small back then. There was just basically a couple rings in a warehouse, and I don't even know if I had to take a guess at how many people were there. I'd say maybe 30, 40. Like there
Hmm.
really wasn't a lot. It was, some people were in, and they were already, up doing either I think NXT at the time when it was the game show, or they were, doing dark matches or loops or any of that stuff. And so it was very small and very intimate. There was two training classes, and you were in one or the other. and you'd go in, you do your drills, and you kind of do whatever was required, but just very small and intimate feeling, I
Hmm.
guess, of just a small elite group. Whereas again, now they have it's a conveyor belt, man. You got 150 people, and they're going. They know what they're doing. Not that they didn't back then, but it was
Hmm.
just very. It was almost sometimes you'll hear people talk about it felt like an island,
Hmm.
where you do the same thing and you train, and you go, are we a part of WWE or what? Like we're working these shows. Like I remember I worked a show in Stark, Florida, and there was like four people there, and I went, "Are we? What is this? Like what is happening here? Nobody even knows who we are." And like WWE seems miles away.
Hmm.
Whereas now it's very much you walk in the door and you feel like you're a part of WWE. So very very different, very very different.
It seems like back then it was, if you want to be here, show us you want to be here, or you're gone. You get, let's try this, and then. But now with the performance center, it seems like longevity is key.
Well, it was very quick moving back then.
Hmm.
So if you weren't catching on, or if you didn't show any promise, probably within about 3 months you were gone. And there was a lot of guys that like I saw come in and go. I was almost one of them several times. That 3 months is usually that
Hmm.
little kind of chunk of time that you got. So now it's a little bit longer thinking, especially with 150 people. Like
Hmm.
it takes time to get this. You know what I mean? And there was probably some casualties back then too of just maybe they needed a little more time, but it's such a quick moving industry.
Hmm.
You better be doing everything you can to take advantage of that opportunity. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah. Is there any particular moments from FCW that stand out more than others?
I mean, probably, yeah. There was, the match that I had with Cesaro with Claudio, uh, which was I had a blast, and I knew like there was certain guys who were like name guys from the Indies, you know what I mean? So when he
Hmm.
came in, there was a lot of buzz, and they picked me for his first match on TV, and so just getting to work with him was really cool. Now he's one of my best friends, and after that, because of that match, actually, getting to they let me win the FCW heavyweight title with the help of Road Dogg, who again, it's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, I'm a part of WWE. Here's Road Dogg. So it was kind of cool. That one was kind of cool, and actually in that same Cesaro match,
Hmm.
Howard Finkel announced it, and I still have the card that he used for myself and Claudio, and so just kind of cool. Like I had little bucket list things of like I wanted Howard Finkel to announce me one time. I wanted JR to commentate one time.
Hmm.
Like just these little things that like I grew up watching, and I went, man, that would be really cool. And so yeah, of all things in FCW, Howard Finkel announced me there, and very cool. That one always
Hmm.
stands up.
Now, when it became time when the rumblings for NXT were going about, when you had Dale Mabry, there was Steve Kern, Dusty Rhodes, and everybody.
Hmm.
So when they made this transition, eventually Steve left, and how how was that transition going from that type of developmental into this amazing facility to where it's like you are a part of WWE now, and then you're working Full Sail and.
Yeah, I mean it was a full overhaul.
Mhm.
You know, what I mean, even like when we heard that we were going to go to NXT, we kind of didn't really know. We're like, all right, so what does that mean exactly? And then when they started saying, hey, I think we had a tester show to see if uh, the Full Sail would work as like our daily or our weekly tapings. And so we had a tester show. And we went, okay, so this is like a little more production. It's a little bit bigger. It seems more than our FCW
Mhm.
usual TV taping on local cable television. Um, so then and also seeing the people that you hear that you work for, but you don't really see all the time. So like all of a
Mhm.
sudden Triple H is around all the time, and you could really see him grab the reins of it and go, I want to make this different because of how it is now. Not saying it didn't work because there was some great talents that came out of FCW and OVW and Deep South and all these other previous developmentals, but he wanted to really overhaul it so that it felt the same, on the same level as like the NFL, the MLB, like all these top of the line elite facilities. I think when you go and see some of these facilities, it was really an eye opener of like, why aren't we doing this same thing?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden that was priority one, and we moved to not just a kind of a hidden warehouse on Dale Mabry. Now it was a gigantic warehouse, with state of the art equipment and
Hmm.
multiple rings and cameras everywhere, so you can practice promos and this and that. And all of a sudden, it everybody kind of upped their game because you had to. It was like, all right, now you have everything at your disposal. The rest is on you. And so it was kind of cool to where excuses went out the window. You had to step up to the opportunity, and especially too because it matched with when we moved to Full Sail. Now all of a sudden, like we started filling up,
Hmm.
Full Sail of people coming to watch, and the early days, especially, you have Big E in there, and you have Seth, and you have all these guys who are starting to make names for themselves. And now you're watching NXT gain ground, and now all of a sudden, we have takeovers come around and stuff like that. And that was just a whole. You're like, oh my god, this is okay. All right, this is a thing now. You know what I mean?
What do you think made it so special with that core group of when NXT launched? Because that when it the black and gold when it first came, there's just something about that era of NXT that was the hottest thing going in my
Yeah,
opinion. Yeah.
it's untouchable, man. It's untouchable. That early days are really really special. Super super. Like I said, they're untouchable.
Hmm.
There's a reason why it stands out, and I think it was just sometimes people talk about the Attitude Era and they talk about having eh, the same I guess such a broad group of people in a an era,
Hmm.
where like you might get a Bruno Sammartino, but you don't get four Bruno Sammartinos. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then again, when you look at the Attitude Era, you have like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Kurt Angle, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. You have all these like once in a generation talents, but they're all together. And I think that was what was happening with NXT as well, where we had all these guys that were hungry and girls that were hungry. Everybody wanted to learn. Everybody was just a student of the game, and
Hmm.
once they kind of saw what was happening, they wanted to be a part of it. And if you weren't booked on a show, on an NXT show, what do I got to do to get on there, because I want to be a part of this. And it made for such a good group of people, where again everybody was so hungry.
Hmm.
And if you look back at what that roster is, you know what I mean, like you have Sami Zayn, and you have myself, and you have Tyson Kidd, and you have Neville, you got Sasha Banks, you got Charlotte, you got Bailey, you got FTR, you got American Alpha, you got all these people. Literally anywhere, you have a bunch of stars, and if you want, you could put anybody from that time. You could put them in the opener, you could put them in the middle, you could put them at the end, and
Hmm.
people would still go crazy for them. And it was just a good group of people who took their craft seriously, and they put a lot of time into it, and they made marketable characters that people gave a crap about.
Hmm.
And when you get all that together, again, obviously with a guy like Triple H and his vision at the time, behind that, there's no way you can
No.
fail. You know what I mean? And I think that was just, again, it was a good group of people who were ready to kill it every single time, and an audience who was paying attention and going, man, this is like this feels fresh. These fresh faces, they don't seem, I guess it doesn't seem like development. It doesn't
Hmm.
seem like these people don't know what they're doing or are learning. Even though we were, it was these people are, I could see them on Raw or SmackDown, and I wouldn't blink an eye. And
Hmm.
that really made a massive difference in, what you were seeing with that original NXT.
That NXT crowd was always so passionate, and that I always felt that made the difference from what you would see on a Raw or a SmackDown back then. I mean, the crowd's loud, but the NXT crowd was just passionate about, like you said, about every person that entered that ring back in that
Yeah.
time.
Well, that's the crowd was very much a part of it,
Hmm.
and to the point now where Raw and SmackDown is a different crowd,
Hmm.
not a better, not a worse, but you really have to work. Not, and I don't even want to say in a different way, but it takes years of being on Raw and
Hmm.
SmackDown to get a Raw and SmackDown reaction, right? So a John Cena, people talk about being over or whatever. You're not over until you're on Raw and SmackDown, and or WrestleMania or Royal Rumble, and your music hits and everybody goes nuts. That takes years and years and years and years and years and years and years to get
Hmm.
to. With NXT, it was a little bit different to where now it's very similar to the AEW crowd, where they're kind of just there to party, man.
Hmm.
They want to sing along to all the songs. They want to just chant and have fun and be interacted with, and essentially what that crowd is now is what we had in NXT.
Hmm.
And I think that was just a hungry group of fans who just they wanted something different and they found it. And then again, now they have it as well. So the crowd is very much a part of why it was special as well.
With all that passion, when they started doing the takeovers, was there any doubt that you guys wouldn't sell out a crowd no matter where you went?
Oh, for sure. There was a bunch of doubt. When we did the first one, I think it was like, hey guys, we're trying to do this, but
Hmm.
we don't know how it's going to be, so let's just put our best foot forward and give it a shot. You know what I mean? What's the worst that can happen? So we did the first one, and the first one was pretty solid. And obviously it was warranted to do another one, so we did another one, and that's when I think we really started kind of kicking in.
Hmm.
That was where you had, again, that was kind of the birth of Tyler Breeze. That was where you saw Neville. That was where you saw, all these guys that you give them a kind of a better platform
Hmm.
to really teach you who they are. And that first takeover, because I think the first one was called Arrival,
Hmm.
which again also a good show. But I think that first takeover was really when the wheels started spinning and people knew, oh, this is going to be like a consistent, really good show. And again, once we did a couple of them, it was like, okay, we can have a good pay per view style show in Full Sail.
Hmm.
But is it possible? Is it really catching on? Is it possible that if we go somewhere else, are they going to know? And I believe our tester show for that was we did a couple little shows in Columbus that did well, and a couple little road shows here and there that did well. And then we had a show that was kind of connected to WrestleMania, and that was where I think we were expecting maybe like 1,000 people, and we ended up getting something like 5,000 people. And we went, oh, okay. Like as the show's about to start, they're putting more chairs out, and they went, oh, okay. And I remember even at the time, like everybody who was anybody was showing up to the show, and so you'd be in the back, and I'd see like Shawn Michaels there before he was a part of stuff, and I go, oh my god, this is cool. Undertaker showed up, and this person showed up, and this person showed up, and you're going, oh man, everybody kind of wants to be a part of this because this is like they know something special is going on. And then I believe after that one was Takeover Brooklyn, where that was kind of the main test of, okay, SummerSlam is going to be tomorrow, but today is Takeover, and we have a 15,000 seat arena. We're running the exact same arena, and we fill it,
Hmm.
and we filled it, and that was kind of like, all right, yep, okay, cool. No, what we're doing is working. Keep doing what we're doing.
Is there any favorite moments from NXT or your favorite takeover you've been a part of?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one, because they all kind of have a
Hmm.
little spot for me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The Fatal Four Way is probably one of the ones that's up there for me, just because it was, how often do you get that caliber of people? The story that we told in there, 45 minutes, I believe we went of like, man, you were like that match, everything that we wanted to happen and all the reactions at the certain times, it came off just about as perfect as it could. And it really was a showing of what we could do and stuff like that. So that one always kind of holds a special place for me. Obviously working Liger at Brooklyn was monstrous. Only for the fact that Liger has never wrestled for WWE and I have his only match. And Takeover again was that hey, can we fill a 15,000 seat arena? And we did. Um, so Takeover Brooklyn was a big one. I know for me, I always got very, very excited for the takeovers. Like that was always like, I got to be on them. I got to be on them. I got to be
Hmm.
on them because they're just so special, man. They're so cool. Um, so I know, yeah, Liger of Brooklyn, Fatal Four Way. Um, I know there's more because I did a lot in NXT, but I actually had a lot of fun on the live events in other places as well. I remember I had a match with Samoa Joe in Austin, Texas. That was really fun.
Hmm.
And I had a match with Shinsuke in Tulsa. That was really fun. And just like little live events that crowd. Actually, one of the only times that I got to work with Adam Cole was in California, and we had a blast. And it was just, again, that crowd was the only one that'll get to see it, but I remember it, and it's just as special sometimes as those big moments too.
Hmm.
But those big moments definitely are up here.
I was watching earlier where Triple H announced that you were going to go to the main roster, and everybody was very excited for you.
Sure.
How were you scared with this move because you've been like under the NXT banner, you've been with
Mhm.
these people helping develop who you are, and now is it a completely different world that you're going into?
Yeah, I was a little. I wouldn't say scared. I was just more, it was almost bittersweet
Mhm.
to where I knew like once my stuff was hitting, I knew it was a matter of time. And luckily I got to be in NXT for quite a while. But I was up doing like live event loops and dark matches for almost 2 years, I think. And so I knew like at some point they're gonna call me up. At some point they're gonna call me up, and I'm gonna have to stop doing NXT, which I enjoyed a lot, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna be on the main roster. And I just knew, and just because of the connection that I had with Hunter and the way that we built Tyler Breeze and stuff like that,
Mhm.
I just knew it wasn't going to be the same on Raw or SmackDown, and I knew it something was going to change, and I just didn't think it would be as successful as it was in NXT.
Mhm.
Just for whatever reason, I just kind of knew. And so when finally they were like, "Hey man, yeah, we're going to call you up," I was like, "Ugh, okay, all right." It has to happen, but
Mhm.
I'm not very excited about it. And that was just at the time because again, I just was having such a blast with what I was doing that I didn't want it to end.
Was there anything that you didn't get to do in NXT that you would have liked to have done?
Um, Honestly, I got to do just about all of
Mhm.
it. You know what I mean? I got to have actually a mixed tag with Bailey and Sasha, which they're two of my best friends. So getting to wrestle with them was a blast for all of us, which was very cool. And I think it was the only time I got to do it. So I got to work with again some of my really good friends. I wrestled for the NXT title multiple times. I was on takeovers multiple times. Openers, main events, all the whatever I could kind of imagine. Don't know if there was really anything that was left unaccomplished. I mean, once it kind of started to transition into the NXT that you know now all of a sudden there's a North American title that looks pretty good, and especially that NXT title is still kind of looming over here. So it's like there is some unfinished business here and there,
Mhm.
but I don't think anything that I really wished that I got to do because I got to do damn near
Mhm.
everything.
How was your main roster run?
Ups and downs,
Mhm.
ups and downs. When I came up, I think they had the best of intentions with
Mhm.
putting me with Summer and working with Dolph and all that stuff. Which Dolph was awesome. Loved working with Dolph. Worked him for about 6 months all over the world. Um, Couple little things here and there kind of derailed it to where all of a sudden I could see the writing on the wall of, oh, okay, well, they're done trying with me, so that's cool. To the point where I went, yep, this is kind of what I thought would happen.
Mhm.
And I remember talking to Dolph a lot about it and just being like, hey man, what the hell do I do? And he was like, don't worry, like you're good at what you do. It just takes time for them to see that. And like they already know, but you know who their guys are, and you know very clearly if you are not one of their guys. And I went, yeah, I'm just not one of their guys. You know what I mean? So it picked back up obviously when me and Dango teamed up,
Mhm.
and we found the fashion files and we did all that stuff. That was a blast. That was a lot of fun doing that stuff. And then when he got hurt, there was again another big dip to where I was very unhappy and just not enjoying anything.
Mhm.
And then we went back to NXT and had a blast there together. So it was a little up, little down. Again, different points in my life, I think, affected certain things, and
Mhm.
little things that were out of my hands as well. So wasn't as successful, I guess, as it could have been. I think we really could have capitalized more on the fashion files and stuff like that. But overall, it's hard to complain about being with WWE for 11 years. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Is there a particular thing you didn't get to do on the main roster that you would have liked to have accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, damn near everything. You know what I mean? I got to do very different from NXT.
Yeah.
So I got to be in a Royal Rumble, so that was very cool. I always thought that was kind of one of those ones that was up there. I got to be on, Survivor Series. I don't know if I wrestled on SummerSlam. I might have. Um, I got to be a part of a lot of WrestleManias,
Mhm.
but it would have been cool if I had like maybe a singles match or a tag match or something on there, just a little bit more focus than being a part of the battle royal. But I still love being a part of the battle royals. It was cool. Um, the Obviously a lot of people grow up liking certain things. I always
Mhm.
thought the Intercontinental title was very cool. So even just kind of being in the mix for that, and you know just overall more, I think, because I don't think I really got to do what I can do.
Mhm.
which the frustrating part is I think a lot of people who watched NXT, they knew what I was capable of,
Hmm.
but I don't think we ever really scratched the surface on the main roster.
When you were working back in NXT and your release came, is that something you saw coming, or?
Uh, at
Hmm.
that time, I knew it was probably happening at some point.
Hmm.
And actually, I believe when it finally happened, I'm pretty sure like Hunter already told me that like, oh, this will probably happen, just because I was still on a main roster deal at that
Hmm.
point. So when it comes down to it, and it comes down to looking at stuff like that, you can't you can't make that much money in that spot. You know what I mean? So it really just kind of came down to that. So I wasn't really surprised.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, you can't ever really be surprised, when they
Hmm.
finally fire you. You kind of see the writing on the wall here and there. Sometimes there's some surprises, but again, I remember being taught by Lance that the average person is there for maybe 5 years. Like if you
Hmm.
get 5 years in WWE, that's a good run.
Hmm.
And again, I was at 11, and so I went, "Whew, I am, I am on some borrowed time probably, but also at the same time, I've carved out a good niche for myself of showing what I can do in terms of if you put me on the program and the stuff that we do outside of the ring with up, down, down, and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So, I'm not saying I'm lucky to be there 11 years. I worked my
Hmm.
butt off for it, but at the same time, I was like, man, that's I've had a good little career here when you compare it to some other people.
Hmm. So after your release came, did you know what your next move would be, or did you just want to take a break for a while?
At that point, I was a little bit burnt out. I mean, I've
Hmm.
been going hard. I really only took, I don't know, maybe a couple days off here and there. Um, and I think maybe I took a couple days off to go get married, and that was about it. So I've been lucky. I'd never really been hurt, so I never really took extended time off. I was booked on everything. I think in 2017 or 2016, I had the most matches in WWE. So like it's just I was going hard, man. I was on everything. I was on every tour. I was on every show. So when it finally came, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna catch my breath here for a second. And I didn't intend to take 3 years off. I think is what it ended up being before I took a booking, but
Hmm.
um, I just kind of liked sleeping in my own bed and waking up and making breakfast and not really being in a hurry to go anywhere, just hanging out with my animals and just enjoying life a little bit
Hmm.
of the reward for the hard work of being on the road for 11 years. And so um, yeah, I didn't really know what my next move was. I was like, yeah, there's always other options out there, but do I really want to do them yet? And yeah, I didn't really know, so that's why I kind of just took a breather. And again, I didn't intend for it to be 3 years, but all of a sudden 3 years went by, and I went, man, I should probably do something.
Now, after you released it, it wasn't too long before you started working with WWE in some capacity again, was it?
Yeah, I'm gonna say probably within 6 months. I think within 6 months, I was still doing a lot of stuff outside of the ring
Hmm.
with up, down, down, and stuff like that. So, and again, these were conversations that I had to where, yes, I was making main roster money, but also you got to look at my value outside of the ring and the other
Hmm.
stuff that I'm doing. So, I had kind of my fingers in enough pies that you needed me to be a part of certain things,
Hmm.
and so yeah, so within 6 months, I think we came back to an agreement and all of a sudden we were doing more stuff and still working, just not wrestling. So
How is it being on this side of things now, where you're not a full time, you're not, traveling as much, I would say, and you have a school now. You have what's it like being on this side of wrestling and helping and giving back
it's
and.
it's good, man. I really like it. I really like it a lot, and I've kind of always gravitated towards the coaching aspect
Hmm.
anyway, where I've always just kind of liked working with people and seeing the light bulbs go off and getting through to people or translating and figuring out. It's almost like a puzzle how to figure out how to get through to somebody a certain thing. So I've always enjoyed that part. We did that through NXT and even on the
Hmm.
main roster as we were kind of wrestling too. So um, opening up the school and getting that going is really fun. All the stuff with up, down, down is always a blast. Getting to see my friends and everything's just so fast moving. Like there's a lot of people even from I don't want to say my generation, but my generation who they're either done wrestling or they've gone and moved on to other things. And so when I get to see the friends that are actually still with WWE, it's awesome. So I love being a part of it still. I love anything that we get to do and now it's almost like I've like I said, I was kind of burnt out a little bit.
Hmm.
So, hey, we got this to do, and it's like, ugh, I don't want to do that. And now it's like, oh yeah, yeah, whatever you want, man. Like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good all around. So a lot of options, a lot of
Hmm.
options of stuff we've been doing again with the school and with our down. So uh, I've been kind of just testing out this and that and seeing how I feel overall. And yeah, overall, man, it's good to catch a breather here and there. So I'm feeling good.
Would you return full time if given the opportunity?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't see why not. Right? It's one of those things where it's kind of crazy to think about. Like I'm only 36,
Hmm.
which I guess because I was hired when I was like 23,
Hmm.
and I started wrestling when I was 19, and it feels like forever, and it feels like I should be like 50 or 60, but I am 36, so like I still got some years. You know what I mean? I'm not some ancient dude. Um, and especially too when I start wrestling around, like when I wrestle at the school and when I do a couple of independents here and there, it's still like I'm still excited for wrestling. I'm still excited
Hmm.
to do what we do. I haven't lost the passion for it. I still like seeing the crowd, be excited or do what you want them to do, or even when I see them and they go, oh man, I love the stuff you're doing up and down, or hey, I remember this match that one time. It's it's still in there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So if the right opportunity came around, if something works, then yeah, man, I got a great relationship, obviously, with WWE, and I got a great relationship with Hunter and everybody else. So luckily, I've kind of you know kept all those bridges very well built. So yeah, man, I'm open to whatever if it's all good.
I believe I saw some screenshots for the new 2K24, and I think I saw you in there again this year.
That's right. I'm telling you, man. Once you gotta stay busy. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You gotta stay busy. You gotta be a part of stuff. So yeah, I was in 2K23 and I'm in 2K24 too.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations on becoming a father recently too.
Yeah, November. So yeah, brand new
Hmm.
territory for me. And crazy too, man. I've never really been like a big kid person.
Hmm.
So I've always been a big animal person. I'm always animals, and I treat them like my kids. But yeah, now we're in the we've kind of covered everything. I got animals, I got a kid, and he's awesome. He's really really cool, man. So uh, very lucky, very lucky.
Hmm.
Everybody's happy, everybody's healthy. So yeah, man, it's cool.
It's one of the best feelings in the world.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's nuts. It's really cool.
Are you accepting new students at this time at your school, or how long are the courses usually?
All the time, yeah. So we run it similar to how Lance ran
Hmm.
his. Where the best way to kind of do it is give us a good extended amount of time with you. So we run 8-week courses, and yeah, you can apply for. I think we have January going right now. We have March coming up. We got May. We got we're kind of constantly running. We have 5 courses a year, so a lot of applications coming in. It's not really one of those things where like we pick and choose who we train.
Hmm.
It's if you're a beginner and you want to learn how to do this right and safe and everything else, yeah, man, you're in. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
if you check out the website, again, we have 5 courses a year. They're always, unless they fill up, then they're always accepting applications. So yeah, we're open for business, man.
Are you looking to take more bookings this year?
Yeah, I actually so I have a bunch coming up. I have 2 in February, I have 2 or 3 in March, I have 2 or 3 in April already. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
You'll be at the Squared Circle Expo in
That's right.
April. Yep.
That's right.
Tri-State Wrestling. They helped set this up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
The Squared Circle is amazing. It's I know there's a lot of like conventions, but like it's really it's in a big open space. It's not like
Yeah,
confined, and so it's a
sure.
good time.
I've heard nothing but good things, man. This will be my first time there, so I'm excited. I'm excited. I love kind of going to these places, where again I get to see some people that
Hmm.
maybe haven't gotten to meet me before, or maybe haven't gotten to watch me before. It's always exciting to me, and it kind of reinvigorates me a little bit. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
If you had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
Get trained by someone that you've watched and that they know how to do this properly, right? It's
Hmm.
just one of those things where, yes, I run a wrestling school and yes, you know who I am and everything else, I'm not going to plug my wrestling school over and over, but obviously, myself and Sean Spears' resume. If you've watched it, that should speak for itself. If, random, Joe something opens up a school and he goes, hey, man, come on and train with me. Well, you should, again, not saying that they don't know what they're doing, but there's a lot of people out there who don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And wrestling, as cool as it is, it's also very cool to be able to walk around and not be hurt. So it's all about safety. You always
Mm-hmm.
have to be safe, and the people who know what they're doing are credible. They've made it to the highest level. They've been where you want to be, and they can pass along that knowledge and help you get there, man. So just get trained properly. Don't be in a hurry because somebody will train you for free or give you a deal or whatever. Make sure your trainers know what they're doing, and make sure that you know get trained properly and safely. Don't get excited, for the whole thing. Just it's half the reason why we opened the school.
Mm-hmm.
It's we want to train people properly so that wrestling can continue to be awesome. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Don't do 2 weeks, then you're a vet and
That's right. My
break your
God, man.
neck. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see it all the time. It's crazy.
Where can people reach out to you at?
It depends. So, Instagram, obviously Instagram and Twitter. Gorgeous with three M's on there. Flatbackswrestlingschool.com if you guys are interested in getting into wrestling and learning how to do it safely and properly for myself and Sean Spears. We are the only coaches there, so you're actually learning from us, not just students that we've taught. We got Fanatics Live stuff, and Up Up Down Down over on YouTube with Up Up Down Down. So yeah, we got lots of stuff on the go.
Do you ever have downtime?
Not much. I really should have some, but yeah, it's all spoken for now.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come on today. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do, sir. It's been an honor.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. This has been fun.
If I can ever do anything, please feel free to reach out.
Cool, man.
Thank you.